It's a pretty big hit.
Yeah, it's a huge hit. It's been a massive learning, massive source of stress.
I'm so
So,
sorry. And I'll record some like other intro thing later. I don't have any like, hey, welcome to the
yeah.
From the Market podcast. No, maybe I'll put that part in there.
Yeah,
But cool. So, Stacy, welcome.
thank you.
Thanks for being open to this.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Um, why don't you start just by kind of telling a little bit about yourself and what got you into real estate and where you're kind of at so far?
Yeah, so I have been a nurse for 12-ish years, something like that, I think. Um, I've always worked in critical care. I started in an ER in Tampa, which is how I learned so much about the neighborhoods there. Really great learning experience, but nursing is horrible in Florida. So it burnt me out really quickly. And I immediately just started trying to learn about other avenues, whether I changed my career entirely, which I was trying not to do, or just ways to supplement my income. And it wasn't until several years later that I actually found real estate investing. But in 2018 is when I discovered it and kind of went down the rabbit hole and just started learning everything I could
A
and
big rabbit
saving.
hole.
Oh my God, it is. It's such a good rabbit hole, though.
Oh man, I could spend forever just researching.
Yes.
I
Um,
can't.
but yeah, so I was just working really hard to save up, and I lived in Denver and still do. And it was through mentorship that somebody helped me see that out of state market, like not Denver market,
Mhm.
was going to be the best option for me. And so I started looking
Interesting.
at all sorts of long distance markets and just really settled on Tampa because I knew it so well.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you had already left or if you had already invested in Tampa before you left and chose to go
I
to Tampa.
did. Yep. Well, it's all of my properties are since I left. So I left in
Okay.
2015 and I started buying in Tampa in 2020.
Oh, okay. And that's interesting you chose Tampa after you looked everywhere else too, because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm originally from California, left California, was looking for where to invest, and eventually I chose Tampa just because I like
Hmm. Yeah.
it, for
Yeah. It's
several reasons.
just, it made the most sense to me. A lot of other markets that I was analyzing were super saturated with investors. I didn't
Yeah.
really know of many in Tampa at the time. Um, I knew it very well, especially like I said, being a trauma nurse. That's what, or working in the ER, in the hood, if you will. It's how I learned so much about Tampa. So it did really work out as far as buying my properties.
Okay. Yeah, and that's interesting because again, when I did my research for where, I had a whole spreadsheet of like
Yeah.
40 cities across the US and all these data points. And Tampa came out as number 2. So for when you chose to invest here, were you mostly choosing that because you knew it? And for some of those other reasons? Or like did you consider just like the trajectory of Tampa, the growth of Tampa and all that? Or is that kind of secondary?
No, I did. I did. I analyzed all of that. I analyzed natural disasters pretty heavily,
Yeah,
vacancy
yeah.
rates, growth multipliers. So yeah, I definitely looked at those. But the thing that just ended up setting it apart, I didn't have a ranking system necessarily. I was almost looking at them all parallel.
Mhm.
And then the thing that ended up ultimately setting Tampa apart was just that I knew it. I knew exactly the type of tenant I was signing up for, the class, the property, the crime, all of it. I just knew it to a T. So I think you know, understanding that helped me understand the amount of risk that I was
Yeah.
accepting.
And the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, I guess.
Hmm.
What
For
other
me, at
markets were
least.
you looking at? I'm curious.
Oh gosh, I analyzed so many. I was
Right.
I was looking everywhere from Des Moines, Iowa, all the way down to Alabama.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
I didn't look at a lot of westward markets, but it was like basically all over the East Coast and the South for sure. Texas, I analyzed a few Texas markets.
Okay. Yeah, Texas is an interesting state. It's good for real estate,
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you all your properties you bought once you left, and how many do you have now?
So I have 3 traditional duplexes, and then my 4th one is a single family home with an ADU, so 8 doors total.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Hey, and so you got those starting just a few years ago.
2020, I bought my first property October, I think, of 2020 is when I closed.
Okay. So 8 doors in less than 2 years.
Yep.
Nice. That's pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
been
you're out of state. So how did you find the properties here, right? You obviously knew the areas, but did you have
mhm.
a realtor that was helping you or a wholesaler or something, or what was that process like?
Yeah, so I just started analyzing, when I was, like, still learning, I just started analyzing deals so that I could know the numbers. And I did that through the MLS. So I had just reached out to an agent that I found off of Bigger Pockets, got them sign me up on the MLS, and then I just started analyzing deals every
Hmm.
day, and it was all MLS deals. The benefit of that ended up being that when a duplex did come across, I could just look at the price, the asking price, and just know instantly if it would cash flow or not. And so it took all of the emotion and the guessing and everything out of it. And sure enough, this duplex came up one day. They were asking 165, and I was like, that will cash flow very well. And so I just sent it to my agent and I was like, make an offer now and make it competitive. I want this. And we won it. It was actually a cash buyer got it first. So I was the runner up offer, backup offer. And their deal fell through. And so I had it under contract within a few weeks after I saw that.
Okay. Nice. And so I guess you were kind of focused on the property itself, right? Just focused on the numbers of the property. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
not too much, not too concerned about like the area of Tampa that it was in for
Well,
what.
but see, that's what I mean though. Like I already knew it.
Yeah.
So there was no guessing. There was no question. So I knew, like, I had never been on that street, but I knew the generalized area. I knew what would come out of it into my ER. So I just like knew this generalized level of risk. Um, so to answer your question, it's actually funny. I didn't do crime analysis on my first 3. I did on this most recent one though, the
Okay.
nightmare property.
Yeah, that's that's the one we'll get into.
The
Uh,
irony.
but I guess so when I was looking for my property here in Tampa, I had the first call I had with my realtor, he set me up on the MLS with alerts.
Yeah.
But we drew out like specific areas
Yeah.
that we would consider. Did you kind of do that at all, or you just said like all of Tampa, give me all the duplexes?
I did it backwards. I was more numbers focused first and then would analyze the level of risk based on the neighborhood second.
Okay.
Yeah, so once I found the deal, I wanted the funnel to be large and wide, so I took everything, and then once I realized the numbers work, then I would analyze the neighborhood and then offer or not.
Okay,
So yeah,
cool.
that was secondary to me. Um, and that was mostly because one of the first properties that I almost closed on was a Kansas City duplex that was a cash cow. And ultimately, long story short, is that it was like D class. And a lot of the investors that knew Kansas City very well were like, don't do this, basically. And I
Yeah.
talked to a mentor and they said, like, when you have tenants of that class, like, you just have to understand that not only are you assuming the level of risk based on the neighborhood, but also for break-ins and vandalism and the property not being treated well and all of those
Right.
things. And so they were like, you're going to have so many like larger expenses with turnover and all of that. So they're like, yeah, the cash flow is better, but do you end up spending it all? And so that's very much where when I moved to Tampa, I knew that level of property didn't exist in Tampa. Like in my opinion, Tampa doesn't have like a true ghetto in the sense of like South Chicago. Like there's nowhere in Tampa that, and I was like, dare I say this, that I wouldn't walk down the street. Like,
Right.
that's kind of not true because I definitely, it
There's
definitely
some
wouldn't.
pockets.
Yeah, there are some pockets that I don't want to walk, but I just mean like you know what I'm saying, right? Like a
Yeah, 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 yeah.
ghetto, like a New York or, you know,
Yeah.
that type of thing. But
Yeah, so it's an overall kind of a safe city from an
yes,
investment standpoint.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And I would agree with that,
yeah,
for sure. So you talked a lot about already like what you did know going in, um, and some of the research you did. And I want to dive into that, this nightmare property,
yeah.
because I know that one had some surprises,
Oh, major.
um, unforeseen events. Anything you kind of learned like after you'd already invested, anything you kind of took away from your first three and your first three properties, because we'll talk about the other one that you didn't know going in.
Um, no, I don't think so. Everything at that point, I guess one thing that I didn't know, or here's one thing I didn't know. On my second property, the second duplex I bought, I because I would still do my due diligence on the neighborhood, even though I knew Tampa and I knew the area. So I
Right.
was doing like Google Earth or just those types of things and doing the little walking man down the street.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Street
Yeah,
View.
yeah. Yep.
Use that all the
Yeah.
time.
And I would still like look at crime maps or, things of that nature, but just not like really analyzing it. But anyway, on my second duplex, I did the Google Earth thing, and was like, okay, it's a congested neighborhood. There's a lot of trash to be cleaned up. However, there were flippers that had already bought a few other properties. So I was like, it's on the brink of gentrifying, yada, yada. Well, anyways, the long story short of it is, I felt comfortable with the level that I was accepting, like risk, I should say, with the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, I'm vetting new property managers at the time, and the property manager I was vetting wanted to go see the property. So he goes out and he's like, hey, do you know that the duplex next to yours is vacant? It's like in shambles and it has squatters doing drugs there. And I was like, excuse me? Like, no, I didn't know this. And it's literally 2 weeks until closing. And I was
Man,
furious with my agent at the time because he didn't tell
I
me.
can tell you.
No, yeah, didn't tell me, didn't mention it. Literally completely vacant. It looked like a war zone. Like it looked like those cinder blocks, but like the roof was like blown off in one place. Like it, yeah. So, I
Wow.
mean, it was like literally completely open.
And that's not something you see on Google Maps on Street View because those
Well, but so
pictures are like
you
years
could
old.
have, except that and this is where I learned that trick. I didn't know about the date in the corner.
Yeah. The
I
picture.
had never thought of that. And so I was just like, oh, it looks fine, whatever. Well, it went vacant. It must have been some probate thing because the city ended up taking responsibility or assuming ownership of it. And so that's what this property manager ended up telling me. He was like, this, I looked at the tax records, the city owns it now. He's like, this will never get sold or flipped. Like, you're going to never be able to rent your property, having a vacant property next to you, yada, yada. Well, out of pure ignorance, I closed, not fully understanding the level of risk. And I got extremely lucky because they ended up flipping it into a luxury home. It
The one
sold
next door.
literally within a month. What's that?
The one next door. Yeah.
The train wreck war
Wow.
zone. Yeah, but so it was pure luck because he was not wrong. The city owned it for 2 years. So they really do, once they have possession, take a really long time to turn it over, sell it off, or whatever.
Wow.
But
That's crazy.
I came in at the right time and that could have been way worse for sure.
Dang. Yeah. If
Yeah,
they flip that into a luxury house.
I made
So
out.
you're happy about that.
Yes, very happy, especially from what it was. Oh my God.
Yeah. It sounds like night and day difference. Like
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
crazy.
But yeah, that's definitely something that you wouldn't see. You wouldn't necessarily know from just looking at a crime map or something. Um,
Yeah, and you would trust your agent to tell you something like that,
You should. It's
like, the fact that he didn't, I'd be furious.
Right. That's me. Yeah, my biggest mistake honestly is that that was only the first strike of losing trust for him. He's the same one that sold me my nightmare property. So, that
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that was my biggest mistake was not ending our relationship. Putting too much weight on trusting somebody or on
Mm.
their
At least just one person, right? Only
yes,
trusting one person, I guess.
exactly.
Yeah, I remember you told me some of that when we met in Denver.
Mhm.
So, yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about your nightmare property? I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely been a journey.
It's been a journey. I'm like, I
Gotten
feel like
worse
I
at
need a
this.
better name for this because when I look back, I'm like, does Nightmare Property really do this justice?
Do you need a drink while we're on here? Like
Right? Ugh. I'm like, what do I call this place? The never ending nightmare.
perfect storm.
So yeah, it was a flip that was supposed to be completely done. I thought I was buying a turnkey house, and to summarize, everything, all the major items were done completely illegally, from like electric to plumbing to foundation. The roof was brand new tiles, put it on rotted decking. Um,
Wow.
so the roof had a massive valley in it, and had to be torn off and completely redone. Just everything. The HVAC, there's no way he actually did the inspection on the HVAC or anywhere in the house for that matter, but definitely not the HVAC because the HVAC wasn't the ducting didn't even connect to the vents. It literally connected in like one place. Everything else
Wow.
was yeah, it was just like
It's pretty far from turnkey.
right. Yeah, so I mean ducting alone is actually quite expensive in
I'm learning that
addition
with
to the
this place, yeah.
yeah, but yeah, the roof on the ADU was metal that he was like it's a few small nail holes like put putty in it basically is what his inspection said. It was a metal roof that was reused. And so what they did was pull out the nails from where it was previously installed and then reinstalled it at my place. So it did not actually fit the structure.
Oh, man.
The fact that I couldn't like see that until I've learned about all of this is concerning for myself, but I didn't know anything about rehab. So I was like,
Yeah.
whatever, there's a roof on it. I don't know. But anyway, so then when they redid it and like nailed it into what's now my ADU, it was completely offline. So there was he made it sound like there was like one or two nail holes in it. No, the entire roof was covered in nail holes. Like you could see the light sprinkling through
Yeah, and if it
everywhere.
rains, like, you're gonna have a
Yes.
shower.
Yes, literally. So yeah, I mean just any and everything. I ended up dropping 100K relative around about. I need to really add it up, but I was getting close to six figures like a
Oh,
month ago.
extra after you closed for the rehab.
Uh-huh. All expenses. Yeah.
How much did you budget for?
None because it was supposed to be turnkey.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Because last time I think we talked, you told me 40K or maybe
Yeah.
50.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, there's the foundation, there was a plumbing loan that was 5 grand. Yeah, there was like a lot of additional expenses that came up that I mean there was like not even a support beam in the ADU. So when yeah, I was like my contractor accidentally flooded that unit and we had to take it down to the studs, and I guess it was like a blessing in disguise if you can imagine that. But all of the studs that they had done in the ADU were floating. The walls were floating and not actually secured. There was no support for the structure.
This is insane.
It's insane.
Like,
Like they did it so illegally that it's not even funny. Like
I mean,
I
like,
don't know how.
I don't even know what to say. Like, that's ridiculous.
That's
And
every contractor.
how did they flood the property?
So they took my roof off. Well, that was the metal roof that didn't fit. They started taking it off
Oh,
to
this
put.
is the ADU.
Yes, that was the ADU. Yeah, thank God. Yeah, that they didn't flood the main house. But
Right, okay, that's what I thought. I was like, "That's terrible," but
oh my God, no.
still
But
bad,
it was,
just not as bad.
yeah. I was like, it was still awful, and it ended up being a massive blessing in disguise. Because, like I said, I mean, like the
Yeah,
plumbing was all done completely illegally. It would have. I would have moved a tenant in there, and it would have like flooded in.
yeah.
The sewage would have backed up in no time at all. But
I think a lot of ADDs, a lot of ADUs can be like that, right? Someone just kinda does it,
yeah,
handyman style,
yeah.
and, just to be able to get renters in.
Totally, but they had done everything to that level,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there was no difference in the quality of work between the ADU and the main house. But yeah,
Oh,
it was a total nightmare. I did do crime analysis on this neighborhood prior to selling because the agent that I was working with was really pushing how much the neighborhood was gentrifying. I specifically selected
oh,
the
interesting.
neighborhood. Yeah, I
And this is the
specifically.
agent that you had bought the
Yes.
previous house with?
So that's why I was like, I instantly didn't trust him. But
Oh, man.
I chose it because of the way Seminole Heights is progressing northward.
Yeah,
And this is just on the east side of that. So it is very
okay,
much on the path of progression. So there's a lot of potential for it to appreciate. However, I knew right now that it was very much in a gentrifying area, and I knew based on what he was trying to push and sell me on, because this is again the same man that sell with the vacant duplex next door.
right.
So I made him walk the neighborhood this time with me on FaceTime, literally,
Yeah,
because I was like,
nice.
that's how much I don't trust you. And so I did the crime analysis, and it shows there are car break-ins. There was no house crime, not a lot of gangs or shootings, not a lot of like really big ticket violence.
Mhm.
Um, there's domestic disputes and things of that nature, but very much things that are like isolated or um I'm like, what is the word? Not like widespread. It's not a neighborhood wide issue. It was very segregated. So
Okay.
I ended up feeling comfortable. Like the other super big red flag was my closing got delayed. And my agent didn't mention this again, but I found out when I flew in for my closing. There's a lot of signs in the houses. And I had asked him, I saw one
The
on
houses nearby, like the
in their
neighboring houses?
windows. And I
Like
had
the
asked
green ones that
him,
say, like, public notice, like, leave the property?
yes. So I saw one on a property when he was walking, and I was like, "What does that sign say?" And he was like, "Oh, it's a public notice for like the police or something. I don't know. I've never seen this before." But he didn't tell me that they were in like
Mhm.
all of the windows. So then I fly in and I see them in all of the freaking windows. And so I end up Googling in it. And it's like literally a public notice to allow the cops to come on your property because they have such a high rate of trespassing in that
Yeah.
neighborhood. And so I end up talking to a like friend of a friend of like somebody that's like a cop or worked with a cop, I forget who it was. And I just remember them telling me like, yeah, it's not the best area. There's a lot of transitional, I was like, I forget the words that they used, but because it's off of Bush
A
and
lot of
there's,
politically correct language, I'm sure.
yes, I was like, because it's off of Bush and there's like public the bus stops and a 7-Eleven and all of these things, like basically it's like a lot of people
Oh, interesting.
that like come to the bus stop and then end up walking through the neighborhood type situation.
Yeah,
So
gotcha.
yeah,
Hmm.
so there's a lot more foot traffic than normal.
And people that are not commuting, but just kinda, like, stopping over in that neighborhood and then continuing, right? A lot of
Yeah.
people that don't live there that are coming through.
Yes.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's not something I really thought of looking at,
Yeah.
like, am I close to a bus stop? Do I wanna be close to a bus stop?
Yeah.
So why'd you go through with it?
Hmm. Well, at that point I was already at closing. And so,
Right.
well, and I mean, it didn't really change anything, right? Like, yeah, I knew there was more people transitioning through the neighborhood, but I have all C-class properties. Like, there was no major red flag that would have made me not close at that time. I didn't know about all the flipping stuff at that time. At that time, I thought my home inspection
Right.
was a
From the
clean
exterior, it
record.
looked okay.
Yeah. So I thought the home was a clean slate, completely flipped. I was looking at it like all my major capex items had already been replaced. So my maintenance and my capex is going to be super low. And then as far as vacancy, all I wanted to get a generational family in there,
Mhm.
like, big family up front, grandma in the back, that would stay in the neighborhood for a long time. So I'd have low turnover, be providing safe, good, clean housing for somebody. That's my
Yeah.
thought at the time. So, I mean, having more foot traffic didn't really. It's also something that happens when a neighborhood gentrifies, right? Like you have a lot more police presence as you want the neighborhood to be safer and
Mhm.
it pushes the riffraff out. So technically, those signs could be a sign of the neighborhood also growing and getting better, right?
Yeah.
Because that's all people saying police are allowed on my property, enter at your own risk. And so if that many people are all in support of police presence, like to me that means,
Interesting.
yeah, a good thing. Like it's
Yeah.
the police are making a really strong effort to make it a safe neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mean, it kinda sounds like you found a neighborhood that is, on the way up, right? And
Mhm.
that's how I feel about all of Tampa. It's all on the way up,
Yeah.
but it's still definitely happening, like, in pockets and bits and pieces,
Totally.
right?
Very
And
much so, and
so
I think that's very much a Florida thing more than any other market in the US.
yeah.
I definitely feel like Florida grows in pockets, very small pockets.
Right, and then what's interesting, which I learned once I moved here to Tampa,
Mhm.
is even within the city, it's the same way,
Yeah.
right? There's
Mhm.
pockets within the city, it's kind of pockets within pockets.
Yes.
You
Totally.
really have to kinda narrow in, um, on kind of what you're looking for and where you wanna be. Do you wanna be a gentrifier, or
Yeah.
do you wanna be in somewhere that's already been gentrified?
Yeah. Which I'm telling you, it's been painful. The long story short of it is that I just have a ton of people come on the property without permission. It's
Okay.
very interesting. It's a lot of not there's no violence. I have only had one official break-in. And
And you had
that
all your appliances stolen, right?
Yes, but that's what I was gonna say. So I think with the amount of foot traffic that I've had coming and going on the property, which I would say is like people trying to go do drugs privately or like in my
Mm,
backyard, things
okay,
of like that nature. But I think having that amount of foot traffic because the property was vacant for my rehab,
right.
then that led to the neighborhood now knowing and seeing all this foot traffic coming on and off without issue, right? I would catch it sometimes and set off my alarms and get people off my property, but like I can't do it all the time. Like I would miss notifications when I'm sleeping or,
Yeah,
have my phone off, whatever. And so I think that led to the neighborhood finding out that my place was vacant. And then I think that's how the official breaking and entering happened, um, where they stole my appliances. The other train of thought is um, my contractor left my house unlocked. And
no.
when, uh-huh, when he did that, um, a woman that is a crackhead um, made herself at home and let herself in. And this is interesting law that I didn't know. Because he left it unlocked, she can no longer be charged with breaking and entering. And so when my property manager came out to the property because I was just about to get it listed for rent, um, that's how we found the squatter and called the cops, had them come arrest this woman. They thought it was multiple people, but luckily it ended up just being her. So they arrest her and escort her off, and they couldn't charge her with breaking and entering because it was unlocked. So she only got charged with a warning of trespassing.
Right.
Um, and that I think is also the police are speculating why my house got broken into because she is from a crack house several blocks away, had made her way over there. And then now the people that have been seen on camera for the instances after, the police think one of them is her brother. So it's just a of issue of people knowing the property is vacant and or not being locked up and secured as it should be.
Well, if anything, like all the neighbors on the street hopefully like love you for fixing that house and, making it not vacant, right?
Yes.
So that it stops becoming like a popular place.
Yeah. That's the hope. I hope that once I get a tenant in there, all of this will stop.
Yeah.
So
And the rest of the neighborhood, you think it seems like they're more of the up and coming type people, right? That they're
it's
okay
starting
with
to
having
be
the police come on their property if needed and
yeah, it's
kind of
starting to be like there's
transition.
people 2 houses down from mine that walk their baby in a baby carriage on the street, like the same street that this like crackhead woman
Yeah.
is walking down. And so that's where I'm like, it's such a hodgepodge that
That's
it's
Tampa for you. Like,
I know it
we're all
is.
like
It's
living so close to different types of
yes,
people, right?
yes,
In California, where I'm from, like the gradient is so much longer. It
yes.
takes a while for you to drive before things really start to change.
Yep.
Here, it's across the street. It can be the same street.
Yeah. It's so crazy. I don't understand what it is about Florida that it's that way, but it
Yeah.
is. Yes. Yeah, I was like, let's see what your software says about my house though.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's dive into it. If you go to lazyboots.io,
You said lazyboots.io.
sweet, you're in.
Oh,
So you can just go to app.
do I do Tampa here?
Yeah, that'll take you to, we'll just kind of fly the map there. So we already know we're in Tampa, so we'll stay on the neighborhoods tab.
Okay.
So yeah, you can feel free to like zoom in to kind of whatever area you kind of want to look at, or just kind of put it in the middle if you want to see kind of everything. And so the idea is, you can choose some criteria that you want to kind of, or at least the data points, right, that you want to see for the areas
Uh-huh.
on the left. So if you hit edit, there's a lot of options you can choose from. Crime is there. There's um, several other data points, and there's some kind of presets to kind of combine them based on what you might be looking for. But whatever is interesting to you, just see what you want to choose. And so this is how I found Tampa, right?
Uh-huh.
Like I had a spreadsheet, 40 cities, several of these criteria, as the columns, and I kind of ranked everything.
And I do this one to see the results.
Yes. Well, yeah, that, and then just choose a radius around that um, to see how far out you want to go. Because what it's going to do is it's going to compare all of those neighborhoods to each other, right? All the ones you just selected are all going to get ranked based on, you said, low median house value, high median rent, and low vacancy. And so it's colored the map. If you zoom out, it'll be a little easier to kind of visualize it. Um, right. So the bluer areas are ranked higher based on the criteria you selected.
Okay. was like, wait, I thought I did crime in there too. Did it not take it?
Maybe you unclicked it.
Okay.
There we go.
So, oh, you see, total crime is low in my neighborhood.
Let's see. That's so number 4 on the left, where it says total crime, low total crime. Um, what that's actually saying is you want crime to be low. And so if your neighborhood is high on crime, it might rank lower. Now, all of the criteria on the left are in priority order. So right
Okay.
now, total crime is basically being set as the least prioritized out of those 4.
Okay.
But since your neighborhood where your marker is white, then that actually ranks low. It doesn't rank well compared to the other 77 neighborhoods that we're looking at.
Okay. Yeah.
And if
That
we
makes sense.
if you click on it, we can look at the details specifically and see where it's at.
Click on the neighborhood.
Yeah. Okay, and it's probably missing rent data. If you click on the little arrow,
This one.
yeah, then we'll see what crime is at. So total crime, 5,382 incidents.
Uh,
And we'll just
yeah.
have to see how that compares to the other so like that one immediately below your neighborhood on the map is interesting, right? Because it's quite blue. So your
Uh-huh.
neighborhood is ranked 66 or 65, and that one's ranked number 4. That's crazy, right? With
Oh, and look at that median house value too.
so
That's
the
it's
house
so
value,
interesting
the house
because
value is not going to be accurate to like asking price though,
mhm.
right?
um interesting also that this is where my other properties are.
And you haven't had the issues.
No. But I don't have cameras there, so I don't know if they have issues and I am just unaware
Yeah, fair enough.
because it's not actual crime, right? Like
What is?
the things that have occurred at my place. It's I have a lot of
I
trespassers.
see what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah, but no actual violent. I had only that one break in, and truly though, I am very firm in the belief that I think it only happened because it's been vacant for as long as it has, and or related to the woman that I called the cops on, a
right.
retaliation. Had my property not been left unlocked, I don't know that I would have had the break in.
Sure. I
But
see.
yeah, very interesting. And so this is also what I was talking about, where it's very much just on the other side, a better
Right.
neighborhood, right?
Yeah. That freeway is like almost a dividing line,
Mm-hmm.
at least for that section right there above the river,
Yep.
right? Those areas are kind of more white, ranked lower
Mm-hmm.
than on the other side of the freeway.
It's interesting to me that this is darker too than actual Seminole Heights.
I wonder what the main reasons are. It could be that those are probably lower priced houses, and that's
Mm.
the current top criteria.
Okay, yeah. Here, let's take that off.
Okay, so
Yeah,
one of them
see,
lightened
it's
up.
darker. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's darker. Yeah, of course, down by Armature Works, and yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, super cool though. And are you allowed to share like where it's pulling this data from?
Everywhere.
Okay.
Finding the data has been an interesting challenge in and of itself. A lot of it right now does come from the census,
Okay.
um, and it's just going to be a continuous project, right, for me to continue to get new data in,
Yeah.
and keep it updated, right? And that's what I say. A lot of this data, I wouldn't use this for underwriting any property, right? A lot of, like we said, the rent values, the house values, they're median. They're not asking price.
Mm-hmm.
So the search Zillow button is actually very useful because if you want to see the current asking price or properties or the current rents in that area, it'll take you to Zillow and outline just that neighborhood.
Oh, interesting. Um, what was I just going to say to you? Oh, I was gonna say there is massive value in this as well because um I forget the website that I used to love to look at their crime maps. If it was like Trulia, I can't remember who it was.
Okay, that's one.
Yeah. But they've gone away with it. And so
Yeah, a lot of people pulled crime off their websites.
yeah. So it just massive, massive value to have things like this. Yeah, that's super cool.
And so if you go on this tab on Zillow where it says for sale above the map,
Uh-huh.
you can change that to for rent.
Oh.
And then it'll show you all the available properties for rent as well.
Oh my God,
So
that's
as you
so
start to like, decide what your lease, your rent is going to be, what you're going to
yeah,
ask,
that's what I was like. That's what I have all these hearted for is rental comps.
right?
So cool. Yeah, they're doing this weird thing now on Zillow where it looks like it's a for rent, but it's actually a for sale.
Like a lease to buy or lease to
I
own.
don't know. It's some sort of like company. It's confusing to me. I'll send it to you next time I see one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's so cool. This disparity is exactly what I'm running into right now.
Just the difference.
Yeah, the struggle of getting it rented. Um because this was the market demand when people couldn't get into houses. It was like 25, 2400, and
Yeah.
then you see like 127 days. So now it's like the rentals are sitting on the market and you're seeing just massive price drops in rent that
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
yeah, that significantly change your numbers, right?
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, it's been interesting.
Interesting. And so now I'm just curious, right? You have another tab open of Zillow that you clicked first,
Mhm.
which is close to Armature Works, much nicer area.
Mhm.
If we go to for rent in this neighborhood, I wonder if they've been sitting as long on the market. Yeah, still like 2 months. There's a lot
Mhm.
less.
Yeah.
Okay, so not as long though.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? It's obviously a more desirable neighborhood.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that would have been a nice place to live. Actually, I didn't love that area myself. It's
Yeah.
nice. I just didn't love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So cool though. Congrats on putting this together.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a project.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's cool to see because like when I put in, you selected, rent, vacancy, and crime. Something that I like to look at, and a lot of people will talk about too, is growth.
Mm.
So like the growth ones on the bottom right, like the population growth, rent growth. Um, if I look at my neighborhood, it's kind of a lighter, it's more on the white side, I guess, not too far, but then it's kind of surrounded by more bluer areas. And so it's kind of nice to see that, okay, I'm getting in somewhere and it's surrounded by areas that have already kind of grown. And so it's just a matter of time before it grows too. And I'm seeing that. Like I can see, street construction, freeway construction, new like 6 to 8 foot pipes like on the street that they're going to redo some piping. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah. for sure. Very cool to see.
And so is that where you're looking, like up in that, like above the river for like your, next properties? You're still, it's kind of like
Um,
your comfort zone is, I guess.
Sulphur Springs right here is where all of them are. I don't plan to buy any more in Tampa for now.
Really? After the nightmare properties, you're done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been due for diversifying, and
Sure.
the rut that I got into, if you can call it that, is that I had the team set up, the deals were just flowing in. I knew the market. It was just everything was so easy. It was a system because I had
Yeah.
it all set up. And so I just kept going in the fact that I was trying to, you know, go into different states and new markets and different strategies. Um, but I would hit a roadblock, and then this amazing deal would come through in Tampa, and I'd be like, oh, it's so easy. Yes, yes. And I just kept saying yes.
Yeah.
And so this house kind of put a stop to that. And then I was like, okay, now this is exactly why I get to diversify. Um, so that it can offset some of the risk of these types of things. So
For sure.
yeah.
Where are you looking next? Do you want to look at some other cities?
I am going to Burr in Denver. So I'm like,
Okay.
we can let's just because it'll be fun.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Um,
Oh, okay,
oh,
that's interesting. Yeah, you have to select. There you go.
and actually more specifically, can you do zip code in this?
Hmm. Interesting. So you're getting close to the mountains over there.
Oh yeah.
That's why those are so big because they're just less densely populated on the
Oh,
left
okay.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, super cool. So then this would be a worse crime rating, right? These white
Uh,
ones,
yeah, since you have total crime
number one.
as your number one,
Yeah, I was like, that's very interesting
for
because I'm
sure.
like, there's,
And okay, less people are working, and so that's another thing I guess you can look at too when you find one.
yep.
I like looking at trends and history,
Mm-hmm.
so we can see the numbers there, but you can also click on that little chart icon for any given
Oh,
neighborhood, and it's going to bring up several different data points over the past like 5 years.
oh, very cool.
Um,
Yeah. No, we have no housing.
I need to make it a little. It's not fitting on your screen too well. I guess I need to. Maybe there's something I can do to fix that. But the data's there.
Yeah, super cool.
The house values have been going up there for a while, which is good to see,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, very much so. Let me move our faces. Just, I was like, how do you exit out of that?
Oh, just click outside of it.
Oh, okay.
But it
Yeah.
looks like you could get a mountain house and be pretty safe.
Yes. Oh my God.
Skiing
I, it's, I mean,
and snowboarding,
it's all relative, right?
of
Because
course.
this is a very, very safe area to live. It is just very densely populated. So I bet there's just like an apartment complex within these areas that are probably dragging down the crime rating. But
Is
this
that
is,
are those the ones? But look at the employment growth. Like
mhm,
that's probably a big thing that's dragging it down um, in that area specifically, right? That was negative
mhm.
46%, which is massive.
Yeah.
You don't want to see that. So
Yeah.
I'm
I don't
curious,
know what it's basing that off of though.
that is basically what is that? I think it's the number of people that are working
Okay.
of
Oh, well, so
of
that
the
would make sense though,
constituent.
because there's so many old people in these neighborhoods. That's why I was saying like this is very suburbia, very safe
Right.
area.
Right, and so maybe employment growth isn't a good statistic to add in for what you're looking for,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? So
It
then you
would
can
not
just
be.
swap it out for something else.
Yep.
Yeah.
But and again though, there are lower income apartment complexes that haven't been gentrified. So even though the neighborhoods are really nice, there could be like one apartment complex in this area that's again like having a million police calls and then look like you know what I mean, it would drive your number there
Right, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
compared to
So
like over here this is all brand new construction. That's why these are all perfect because
yeah, and
they're
then they're gonna have a lot of growth too in those 2 other metrics, right?
yep,
They're new?
yep,
Yeah, because it's combining those 3 criteria, right?
yep. Yeah, so cool. Well, thank you so much for the access. I will definitely keep playing around
Yeah.
with this.
No, of course.
Excited to check it out.
Hopefully, it saves you from another horrific nightmare property.
Yes, for sure.
I mean, I can't believe you were 100K over what you
yeah,
thought. I mean, which was supposed to be 0, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. I like I said, I need to add it up for the purpose of um when I tell this story and it's all hindsight and it's gonna be a
yeah.
glory point of what I overcame. But um yeah, it's definitely up there. I did have an eviction, rental loss, unit turnover. Um so I don't know if the total is going to be 100K without that. But regardless, my
Mm,
reserves was six figures and now it's non-existent. And so the pain point is the same.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And so what's your, like, exit strategy? You just still, like, get a generational family in there and long-term tenants, or are you thinking something else now?
Yep, long-term tenants, and then holding it as long as I can muster to hopefully get the appreciation to counter my loss
Yeah.
is the hope. Um, it's hard for me to want to hold it right now because it
Yeah.
seems never ending. So I am concerned that some of the items that I didn't have the finances to fix completely are going to continue to be pain points in the next year, but fingers crossed that won't be the case. And yeah, I hope to sell it and recoup some of the loss and then just move on with my life.
Yeah, it's a pretty big hit.
Yeah, it's a huge hit. It's been a massive learning, massive source of stress.
I can't
Yes.
imagine. I'm so
So
sorry.
it's okay. And the other good thing is that it's going to directly apply to my goal here in Denver. So if nothing else, if I am massively successful on buying a house here because of all the skills I just learned from managing contractors from afar on
Mhm.
a unexpected rehab, then so be it. I'll make my money on the market here.
We all pay our dues one way or
Exactly.
another.
Yeah. Yeah, I paid him all right.
Oh, man.